morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where in the world you're joining us from. Welcome to our webinar, Plug and Play, Live AI Workflows in Action, Q2, brought to you by our friends at Supermetrics and Precisely. I'm Brian Meany, co-founder and president of Data Science Connect, the world's largest data and AI ecosystem for enterprise leaders. Today, we're excited to welcome hundreds of attendees from around the world to explore how AI tools truly perform in real-world workflows, not just in demos, but in action. Plug and Play sessions are all about showing, not telling. In this hands-on webinar series, you'll see tech leaders walk through their AI products in real time, highlighting exactly how they work and why, workflows, and integrations. Built on the momentum of our AI demo days and agentic AI showcase formats, Plug and Play goes deeper. Today, our presenters will slow down and dig in, demonstrating usability, showing off speed to value, and guiding you through common real-world use cases. We're honored today to hear from several distinguished experts. Mikael, chairman at Supermetrics, Evan Kaeding, global director of solutions engineering at Supermetrics, and Scott Wenzel, senior sales engineer at Precisely. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. To make this feel a little more in person, we suggest you add a photo to your profile and include your bio, LinkedIn profile, and other information you want your fellow attendees to see. Next, please take advantage of the Q&A and chat features in the right side. We'll be addressing your questions throughout the webinar, so be sure to upvote the questions you'd like the panel to address. If you're wondering, if you'd like the speakers to address, if you're wondering where your organization stands compared to others on your AI journey, check out the poll questions in the right sidebar. And finally, to learn more about how to move beyond prototypes to AI solutions that operate in real-world workflows, check out the calls to action below throughout the webinar from our sponsors. Now, without further ado, I'm excited to kick things off with our first presenters from Supermetrics. Welcome to the stage, Evan and Mikael.
All right, super, Brian. Thank you very much for the introductions. We'll go ahead and get things set up for our audience here. If you haven't had an opportunity yet, feel free to drop a quick answer into the poll as well. You'll just have a quick question about some of your organizational thinking around marketing, AI, readiness, preparedness, those kinds of things. So feel free to dive in there. But with that, we're going to go ahead and dive straight into today's session. Thanks everyone for joining. Title of the session is AI is Disrupting BI and Why We Believe That Marketing is the Canary in the Coal Mine. Let's jump into it. My name is Evan Kaeding. I'm the Global Director of Solutions Engineering here at Supermetrics. Been with the company for about 5 years, but was actually a customer for several years prior to joining. Had a lot of experience using the tool, building a variety of different solutions for clients like KFC, like Old Spice, League of Legends. Like the product so much that I actually moved myself and my partner all the way here to Helsinki, Finland, where I happen to be joined by Mikael Thuneberg right next door. Mikael, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So my name is Mikael. I'm the founder of Supermetrics. I founded the company in 2013. Before founding Supermetrics, I was an analyst myself, so I have a background in data analytics. And with Supermetrics, I've been automating that analytics data gathering process since. And nowadays, I'm the co-CEO and chairman of the board at Supermetrics, and working very hands-on in building our AI ecosystem product area.
Super. Thanks, Mikael. And it's been a pleasure to work alongside you for all these years, and we've got plenty in store for our audience today. No question about it. So with that, want to just set the table because I know that marketing and advertising may not be front of mind for everybody coming to Data Science Connect. So for those of you that already have active projects and engagements in marketing and advertising, you might find that this reinforces your prioritization on these. For those who maybe haven't been invested in these areas or maybe aren't quite exposed, I hope to give you at least a little bit of an insight as to why we think and why we believe that marketing and advertising is changing dramatically and is likely to be one of the most rapidly evolving domains in the AI ecosystem. So at Supermetrics, we've been helping our customers connect to, manage, and make better decisions with their marketing data for several years now at this point. And what started happening recently is, well, generative AI has swept across the ecosystem in just about every domain possible. And the question that it seems like everyone is asking is, well, now that I can do things in many cases better, faster, and cheaper with Claude, what are the things that actually drive value, especially in the context of business intelligence, data science, analytics? How do we go from making decisions to actually implementing the implications of those decisions in real life? And just to give you a glimpse, this isn't just what's happening in the marketplace with regard to thought leaders or influencers or people posting on social networks. This is real life data from our sales conversations with our customers. And if I were to show you what this graph looks like as it continues on into May and June, you'd see that the trend continues actually. So we're seeing this live. These are the questions our customers are asking. And today we're going to show you what this looks like in practice. But again, back to the real part of this part of the presentation, which is why should your organization prioritize marketing? And I'll give you a couple of reasons from a couple of different angles here. First, if you take a look at the top 10 largest companies on earth by market cap, you'll actually be able to see that for 3 of them, over a double-digit percentage of their revenue is derived from advertising. That's not a small portion of the global economy that is either fully dependent on or reliant on advertising to continue to make and invest in the generative AI models that are continuing to redefine the way that we do work. And so certainly these companies have a vested interest in ensuring that the demand keeps flowing. And in many cases, they're using their own AI tools to optimize the delivery of media and of messaging to customers. And many of the organizations I'm sure who are represented today are in many cases customers of these advertising platforms. Number 2 is there have been several studies in this area. This cites an MIT study that basically says 50% of all AI project investments are within sales and marketing functions. We also see from our own original research here at Supermetrics that marketing leadership is pressuring teams to adopt AI at an unprecedented rate. Over 90% of marketing teams report that they're experiencing pressure to adopt AI coming from the C-suite and the board, but actually only 6% have really fully implemented AI in their workflow. High expectations, low real adoption. But we recognize as well from a similar study that about 95% of projects fail according to MIT, and they fail for a variety of reasons. Certainly tooling is one of them, but by and large, it's use case identification, it's training, it's ease of use, it's acceptability, it's a whole litany of things. And today, hopefully some of the things that we share are going to mitigate some of those challenges so that your AI projects, in particular for marketing and advertising, don't necessarily suffer the same fate. Again, from the Harvard Business Review now, we see that there's an increase in what's known as AI brain fry on the rise across several different professions who, by and large, are working behind computers. And actually, for the folks in marketing, over 1 in 4 are now seeing that they're reporting instances of AI brain fry at work. AI brain fry is a fairly new concept in the field of industrial psychology, but you can think of it as a either advanced stage or early stage form of burnout, which is getting a bit more clinical recognition now in these days. So we've seen that expectations are high. Marketers are trying in many cases. They're maybe not succeeding, but they're certainly either burning out or frying their brains trying to get this thing right. For the last side of why marketing and advertising is in particular quite unique and why we think this is the canary in the coal mine for business intelligence is that marketing and advertising actually requires a high degree of bidirectionality. So unlike a lot of enterprise disciplines, there's actually a lot of different components associated with reading the data from the different platforms, whether those are your CRMs, your advertising networks. It could be all of the different surface areas upon which you're interacting with your customers. So doing performance analysis, understanding which of your campaigns are working, ideating on your creatives, the actual messaging that you put out in front of your customers. And of course, for the marketing teams or the marketing agencies who are doing this on your behalf, doing the reporting and attribution to show what's actually working. And then from, again, the database perspective, we're thinking about read, we're thinking about write. There are a variety of write activities as well that are required for marketing. And the most sophisticated marketers are asking, how can I do my read activities and my write activities in the same workflow. The things like planning campaigns, creating those assets, getting them live, whether they're static visuals or whether they're videos, launching the campaigns and continuing to optimize them in a virtuous feedback loop. So, for all of these reasons, we like to think that marketing and advertising is certainly worth at least some degree of time and consideration for folks who may not have had the opportunity to jump in quite yet. But with that, I think the stage is just about set. Mikael, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to show a little bit more about just how our customers are starting to use Claude and starting to actually reap the benefits of using AI in their day-to-day workflows.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Evan. So, like I said, I've been building the AI ecosystem product area for Supermetrics for the last 6 months or so. Actually, a little bit more than that already, but still. And what we do is that we make Supermetrics data available in all of the AI providers. So you can fetch Supermetrics data into ChatGPT, into Google Gemini, into Microsoft Copilot, and into Claude. And Claude is where we see a lot of usage right now. So a lot of analytics usage, a lot of marketing usage happening inside Claude, and that's what I'm going to demo to you today. And what you can do with Supermetrics inside Claude, it's super easy to get started. So we have a connector, as you can see here. It's literally a one-click install. You can install Supermetrics. You don't need to have a previous account or anything. You can test it out really easily. We built the whole flow so that you can get started and install and set up everything all inside Claude. So you don't need to go to Supermetrics to set anything up. There's no really installation process. So you can really get started super easily. And that's why we see really a lot of usage for this connector right now. And what this connector can do, so I'll show you here. So let's start from a simple query. So let's see what it can connect to. And this should, while Claude gathers its thoughts, it should list the available data sources through Supermetrics. So what the connector does is it gives Claude access to certain tools that fetch data from the Supermetrics system. And one of these tools is a tool for listing all of the data sources. And now it's using that data source discovery tool. So we should see a data source list coming up very shortly. And at Supermetrics, we have a very wide variety of connectors to different advertising platforms and other marketing platforms that support your marketing activities. We do have web analytics, SEO, CRM. You can connect to your databases, to e-commerce platforms, marketing automation, and of course, a lot of paid advertising channels. So there's really a wide variety of different platforms that you can access with Supermetrics. And if you try a simple example here, analyze my Facebook ads performance last week, offer suggestions. So the power here is that you have Claude and all the intelligence of Claude, plus all the tools that Supermetrics makes available to Claude. And that combination is just super powerful. Because a lot of things that you would previously would have used maybe a spreadsheet for, or a dashboard or a BI application, you can actually now do all of that inside Claude by just chatting with Claude and asking questions. And I really think this is the future of analytics. So no one wants to go through all of these hundreds of different dashboards that you have. It's much easier to ask questions here. So now it's making a data query to get the campaign performance data for Facebook ads. It asked me which account to use. I chose the Supermetrics main account. And now it's pulling data. And you may have questions on how trustworthy is this data. I know there's a lot of discussion around LLMs and hallucinations and so, but I have to say, during the last year, the models, and especially Claude's models, have become so much more better with numerical data. So I really, in Claude, I don't see, if you use the best models, I don't see any hallucinations anymore. Of course, it's not 100% guarantee, but I think the hallucination problem has been solved to a large extent, at least. And now it's analyzing the data, and let's see what it comes up with. So now you have the key data from last week compared to the prior week by campaign, and then it offers its analysis of that data and some suggestions that it has. And of course, you could ask follow-up questions here. You could analyze that more. You could dig into these findings, validate them, and then maybe you want to add some other data sources here. Maybe you want to compare your Google Ads performance to your Facebook ad performance. That's also possible. Like you can integrate data from various different sources that we support. So all of that is very possible here. What I think is super exciting is that it's not only about analyzing data. You can also use Supermetrics now to change your campaigns through Claude. So that's what I'm going to show you next. So what you can do is, for instance, in the test account, create a new campaign for the Supermetrics summer promotion. And now it's thinking a little bit. So what you can do here is you can create new advertising campaigns, and you can edit your existing campaigns very easily, all inside the AI chat. So for instance, if you see that your budgets are misaligned or so, you can easily do those changes, shift my budget from Google to Facebook, or shift my budget from this campaign to another campaign. Now it's asking some basic questions on the campaign I wanted to create. So let's answer those. And just like that, you have a new Meta Ads campaign running. And now it's, you can see it in, if you open Meta Ads. So here you have the summer promotion already live. So super easy to create campaigns. I will show you one more example here. So here I've created a campaign previously, and you can also create ads for the campaign. So here I asked it to create some ads, and it did. And I wanted to upload an image. What you can do with Supermetrics, you can upload ad images. You can pick them from Google Drive. You can generate them by AI, and then you have those ads also in the campaigns. So basically, you can move a lot of your marketing workflow into AI powered by Supermetrics. So it's not only analysis, but also making action, turning the recommendations that Claude gives into action in those ad platforms. So I think that's super powerful. And one last thing I want to show you is there is, you can also use Claude to generate dashboards. So I know a lot of you are probably doing analytics, doing dashboards, and I said you can use chat for analyzing a lot of questions. You don't need dashboards that much anymore, but still for many use cases, you may want to have a dashboard as well. So here I asked Claude to create a dashboard, and it got the data from Supermetrics, and then it generated dashboard like this. And this was just created by Claude on the fly. So it can also generate these dashboards for you very, very easily. And what's more, we figured that it's very easy to generate dashboards inside Claude, but there's some downsides to that. So you can't very easily share these dashboards because they are HTML artifacts inside Claude. They are not live, and you can't share them outside your organization. So we decided to also create a tool where you can upload these dashboards into the Supermetrics system for sharing. And that's the last thing I'm going to show you today. So here we have the Google Analytics dashboard that I created previously. And then I asked it to upload that dashboard to Supermetrics. And then what we got is this, which is a live dashboard inside Supermetrics. And what the benefit here is that this is actually live. So it will refresh with the latest data. And you can also you can share this dashboard. So we have all of the sharing options here that you can use for sharing this dashboard. So it's super easy to generate dashboards and then generate them in Claude, upload to Supermetrics, and then through Supermetrics distribute that live dashboard. And what you can also do here is, if you want to edit those dashboards, that's also possible. So we have here a chat, what you can use to edit that dashboard. So if you want to change title to GA dashboard, so then we just let the AI here change the title. So you can see the title changed there right on the fly. So editing these dashboards through AI is, I think, quite powerful. As an analyst, I have created hundreds of dashboards during my career. I think this is quite magical when you can suddenly do it just like this inside a chat. So now it's applying a color theme to that dashboard.
And Mikael, I was going to add, one of the reasons that we built this is that we saw internally here at Supermetrics, but certainly within the customers that we were working with, there were a lot of different Claude HTML artifacts that were kind of being thrown around, and they're in Slack, and then they're in emails, and then they're in PDFs, and all of a sudden they're not able to be updated. But now actually we've got something that's shareable, it's controllable, it's auditable, and in many cases can be the source of truth for your teams in a way in which it responds in a dynamic environment. So it's been exciting to watch the evolution of this as the best practices start to emerge from practical use.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you want to, you can also download this as a PDF and share it that way if you want to. But then, yeah, this is super easy to share these dashboards. And I should say that this dashboarding capability that I'm showing you now, it's not available right now. So this is actually in internal testing and not available today, but this will be available very, very soon for everyone to try out. And a couple of more things I could show on this one. So here is just another dashboard I created. You can create really different kind of dashboards. You can have account pickers and whatever in these dashboards. You can also do what I did here, which is I asked it to create a dashboard based on a Looker Studio dashboard screenshot, and it created the same dashboard here. Zoom out a little bit to look better. In any case, it created a dashboard based on a screenshot. And then this is also a live dashboard plugged in to the Supermetrics data sources. So it's also very easy to use this to migrate your dashboards from other BI tools into a more modern tool here in this tool, and which we call our Supermetrics Studio. And as the last thing that I'm going to show you today is that also the dashboards are not only about reporting, because we have the campaign management functionality that I mentioned earlier. So you can do new campaigns, you can edit your campaigns. So you can also embed those capabilities into a dashboard. And here I will show you a very simple example of that. So I asked the AI to generate for me a Facebook ads budget manager, and this lists all of my Facebook advertisement campaigns, and then their budgets, and I can change the budget here very easily. And then when I click save, then it actually pushes that action into the platform and into the campaign. And of course, this is an example I created in 2 minutes. The AI is really fast in generating this, but you could build something way more complex here. So you could have the analysis here as one part, and then that analysis is feeding into some kind of actions, and then you have a confirmation button there in that dashboard. So you can really make these dynamic with all kind of actions as well. So I think that's it from my demos, and would love to answer any questions about any of this.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks so much, Mikael. It's been a privilege to be able to watch this unfold as being part of the Supermetrics ecosystem for a good majority of my career now. It's always been an equation of how can we analyze what's happened in the past, and then very slowly and manually actually think about what's going to happen in the future. And now all of that can happen in one workflow, in one tool, with the power and sophistication of the latest generative AI models. It's really breathtaking to watch. If it's all right, I'll go ahead and steal the screen just to put up a couple of QR codes for folks who want to get a bit more information about everything that we're doing and want to stay in touch as well. So I'll go ahead and pull that up. I think, Mikael, you might need to seed controls to, there we go, perfect. Got that. So with that, that's the majority of what we wanted to show today. So if you are interested in, of course, trying out what Mikael showed, fantastic. We've got the QR code right there. I believe there's a pop-up on the screen as well that'll say try in Claude. So if you're already in the Claude ecosystem, fantastic. You should be able to get started right away. If you want to have further outreach, further discussion with myself or Mikael, you've got our LinkedIn QR codes there as well. I saw that we had a couple of questions. So I think based on what we have time-wise, I think we are, I think we have a minute or two for questions. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump into the chat here, and I'll go ahead and read these off. But yeah, in the meantime, thank you for your time, your attention, and feel free to grab those QR codes as well. So question here is, I've been experimenting with AI workflows. Are marketers making a mistake by using AI to replicate existing workflows? Second part to the question is, should we be using AI as an opportunity to redesign how work gets done altogether? Fascinating question. Yeah, are we just automating and adding additional layers of complexity to workflows that may be broken, or is there a new and potentially different way to be thinking about it? I've got some thoughts on this, but what do you think, Mikael?
I think it's kind of both. So of course, like first you may want to automate, but I think there's some existing flow. But I think with AI you can actually go much further than that if you trust the AI enough. And I think that's maybe the main question on how far you trust the AI at this point to automate your workflow. So I think right now I would say most people are still in the phase of human in the loop. Maybe have a button to confirm and so on. In the future, maybe that's not anymore necessary.
Yeah, I completely agree. And being able to have the human in the loop remains a critical step. And well, I saw that we have our CMO in the audience as well, and we'll continue to ensure that we have a human in the loop, certainly when we're pushing these campaigns live on behalf of our team. So you can definitely take that for gospel in terms of what we'll be doing. But yeah, I completely agree. It's good to experiment, it's good to innovate, but it's good to also have some of the safeguards, which are, manual approvals and certainly an audit trail associated with those, which you can certainly build as part of this workflow as well. Another question that we have from the community is, could this be suitable for small nonprofits seeking to scale up community engagement and generate revenue from ads? Good question, Leo. If I think about small nonprofit and generate revenue from ads, we have several customers across the world. I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning, but about 15,000 customers globally, of which about half are agencies, and those agencies do work on behalf of about 200,000 brands. So a pretty wide reach when you consider the scope and span of Supermetrics. In my tenure at Supermetrics, I worked with several nonprofits, both in North America and across Europe, and certainly in the Asia Pacific region as well. And what we see is that by and large, if you've got a product, if you've got a service, if you're collecting donations as well, could be a nonprofit use case, that using this to either create your campaigns, optimize your existing campaigns, drive traffic to your website, generate those conversions, this could be a very effective set of tools for you and your teams to help optimize what you're doing, or potentially start and experiment with something new as well. So definitely, I'd say nonprofits are definitely a community that we've seen have success with Supermetrics. Another question here is, with the campaign management agent, can you automate the negative keywords based on poor performance? Negative keywords being one of the techniques you can use typically in a search environment. So ensuring that you're not necessarily ranking for the keywords that you don't want to appear for. That's generally what that refers to. Mikael, I'm pretty sure that we've built something like that inside of the areas where it's most applicable, but I'll let you take the majority of that one.
Yeah, for sure. So we support in the campaign management side both Google and Microsoft ads, and you can definitely manage negative keywords there as well. So you can do analysis, and then you can activate on adding those keywords to your campaigns as well. And maybe still on the previous answer, I could expand a little bit about. So we do see of small organizations, we actually see a huge amount of small organizations using our Claude connector now, because it's so approachable. And even organizations which don't have a dedicated marketing person at all, because Claude makes it so easy to do this, to build campaigns, to manage campaigns, analyze campaigns, and improve those campaigns.
It's very true. Yeah, we're seeing a good uptake in the market, certainly from, well, all of the different organizations for whom previously marketing perhaps was unapproachable and might have been a bit too cost prohibitive or complicated to actually add to their stack. So good shout there. And yeah, several notable examples that I can think of for sure. I don't think I see any additional questions from the audience. So with that, again, thank you for your time, your attention, and I hope we have the opportunity to work together if what you saw today is interesting. So thanks again, and I'll go ahead and pass it over to, I believe Jenna is going to be taking over. Is that right?
Yep. Thanks, Evan, and thanks, Mikael, for some great demo material here. Now we will welcome Scott Wenzel from Precisely.
Thanks, Jenna. Can you hear me?
I can. Welcome to the stage, Scott.
Thank you. Let me set up some on here. While I'm pulling up. And Jenna, let me know if you can see my screen.
I can see your screen.
And yesterday when we did this, are you seeing the presenter side or the?
I'm seeing the presenter side now.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Scott Wenzel, Senior Sales Engineer at Precisely. Been with the organization for 4 years, supporting what we refer to as the Automate portfolio, which is a platform that helps simplify your various SAP data processes, whether that's uploading, extracting, or even governing the data. And I'll walk through those here in just a little while. But today I want to show you a different way to think about the SAP master data management solution. So instead of walking through traditional SAP screens, that and transaction codes where we're looking at how the evolved MCP server can now turn that experience into something that's more conversational, it's more streamlined, and it's more outcome driven. Now, before I start on here, I want to apologize. In a typical live demonstration, there about an hour before the actual session itself, we had some network issues. So I'm going to be using some of the backup videos that I created yesterday, just in case something like this were to happen. But as we know, AI is everywhere right now. AI agents are starting to appear everywhere across the business, whether that is in sales, support, IT, even data operations. But no matter where they show up, they all have the same dependencies. They need to have the right context and the trusted data to make useful decisions. And that's especially true in an SAP environment where accuracy and control and data quality really matter. And for today's demo, that is going to be the theme. We're not just going to show you AI talking to SAP, but I'm going to show you how AI can interact with your SAP environment in a way that's controlled and actually useful, with conversational instead of actually having to go in and type that information around. So with that in mind, excuse me, what happens when we bring this idea into the SAP material data management? If you are familiar with SAP, traditionally, even something as simple as reviewing or updating a material requires jumping between different transaction codes. And you're navigating the various screens, you're selecting the particular views that you want to interact with, and then reestablishing the context each time, which can slow the users down and also increase the chance for certain mistakes. And you, at the same time, you also need to understand the various transaction codes and what their functionality is within SAP. It works, but it's not exactly a smooth user interface or user experience. What we're doing with the MCP server is we're really changing how the users can interact with SAP. So instead of thinking in terms of transactions or screens, the user simply describes in natural language what they want to do, and then the system can retrieve the material, identify any of the issues, and help apply the updates all within one flow. So the user is no longer managing the mechanics of SAP, they're more focused on the actual outcome. And we'll see that in the demonstration. So I'm going to start by basically showing you an end-to-end process where we're going to create a material maintenance script that will act as our foundation. We'll then expose it as an API that will load into our environment and then create the tool that will be used through the AI agent within Claude. Within Claude, I'm going to use natural language requests to retrieve a material. I'm going to inspect it for issues, and then allow Claude to start making suggestions and then correct the data without having to go into the SAP GUI. So you'll see that there'll be no switching of different transactions, no manual navigation. It's just simply going to be one guided, intelligent workflow. The process that I'm going to be going through is really powered by a few key components that are all working in tandem. The first, as you'll see as we get in there, is going to be Claude, which will provide that natural language interface. So the user will simply be describing what they need or what action they want to accomplish. What we refer to as our Automate Evolve platform with the MCP server will sit in the middle, maintaining the context, and will then be orchestrating the workflow between Claude and SAP. Our Automate Studio will execute these actions and create these scripts that will give the users the ability to have full control and governance as they're interacting from both a read perspective and a write perspective into SAP, and SAP will still remain that system of record. So while the experience is going to feel conversational on the front end, the execution behind the scenes is still structured and governed, which is what we anticipate for SAP. So with that, I'm going to come over here. And to level set, since I'm not sure how many of you actually use or have seen SAP, if I'm working with materials, there are three common ways that I can interact with them. One is through a transaction code called MMO1, which creates the material. But for today's demonstration, I'm going to focus on the other two. So if I want to look at a material, maybe say, check the description, maybe this in motion. Whether I want to check the description or maybe pricing or other details, I would typically use an MMO3, and I think of it as my read-only view. So I'm just looking and I'm making any type of, I'm not making any changes with it. And you can see here, everything is now grayed out. If I want to make a change, or if I discover that there's an issue within that particular screen, what I then can do is I need to change back over to my MMO2, which is to change the material. I replug in the same information, and now I can go in and modify the particular fields that I've identified as having issues. So in this case, you can see I'm modifying the description. I'm making changes to my gross and my net weight. And when I'm done, I save that script, and then the actual change has occurred. So again, it's typically moving the data, switching from various screens. And again, I'm having to re-enter the data, identify the particular view that I want to go back into within there. Over here. So with our Automate Studio solution, we can quickly build and create scripts that will interact with SAP with little to no coding. Studio gives us the ability, let me put this in motion, to be able to create different types of scripts that perform different types of functionality. And these scripts can be created in Excel, but for our purposes, even Excel or JSON scripts can be created. So instead of somebody going in and actually building the JSON manually, I can use Studio to very quickly come in and generate these scripts for me. And then at that point, as I'm creating the script, Studio is then following me around the various screens that I just showed a minute ago with MMO2, and would be modifying those. And then when it's finished, it will then place that, bring the fields that I interacted with into the Studio screen, where I can then come in, I can use this as a mapping process. So this top portion will be the various fields that I've interacted with within SAP. The bottom portion is the start of my JSON file. So if I put this in motion again, you'll see I have the various fields that I interacted with. And to do the mapping, come in, I'm going to go back to map. And if I click on use all fields, it will then map those fields into my JSON file. Now at this point, I can start testing the data to verify that, again, what's information here is correct. Come in, I can validate it. The first thing it's going to ask me to do is save the file. So I'm going to give this a name, this JSON API file, a name that will be loaded into our Evolve platform, where we will then use this to assemble the tool that will go into Claude. Once I've saved it, it will then start the validation process. And it will come back then with a rule. You can see the run response true, meaning that, again, there were no errors that were found, and it is now ready to be saved and sent up to the Automate platform or the API creation. So I'm going to go hit submit. I'm then going to identify. This will then be put into a solution area that you can see is data API scripts. I can add support documentation. And then when I'm ready, I click on submit. And it's then going to be submitted to my Evolve platform. And you see it was successful. Okay. Next, I'm going to go into Evolve is a platform where we can have connect to the different data sources. And in our particular case, as you can see in here, we're going to come into the data API script. I'm going to identify the script that we just uploaded. At this point, I can update the API. You can see, I can look at the view. I can see the basic information about this API, including the input as well as the output. And once I've reviewed this and I'm ready, I can then go back to solutions. I'm going to click on that API again. And then I'm going to click assemble. At this point, then, I'm going to identify my LLM connection. I'm going to then identify my SAP environment and our logging credentials and submit. Now, at this point, you see it shows that it was prepared, and it's preparing the assembly of this tool and get it prepared to be utilized within our LLM environment. To see that, once it has completed the assembly, as I go back into my operations, I'm here, yeah, go into my operations, the AI tools, and these are all the various APIs that are now available to our tools that have been created for our MCP server. And if I hit refresh, in just a moment, you can then see that back. And you can see at this point, then the status is going to show that it's ready for use, and then there would be a brief description. So now that we have created the rule, we've now created that and appended that to our tools, I can now go into my Claude environment and start using that within the environment to be able to start using, again, the natural language to review the data, make changes, and upload that data into my SAP environment. So for here, again, just like we just saw a moment ago in the other demo, using the natural language, I'm going to start wide and then come in and start narrowing in. And that. So the first thing I'm going to ask Claude is if it can see if it's connected to my Evolve platform. And you can see it's come back and it says, yes, it is. And it's giving me some basic information. I can then go in further and ask it what particular tools are then available to me. And for this demonstration, we utilized two of the tools that are connected to the MCP server. You can see some of these are around looking at various tasks that are being completed within my Evolve platform. We then have processes that can be reviewed. But for our purposes, I'm going to focus in on the product master data, which is doing the query, and then the update data, which is going to be allowing me to do the posting of the data. So if I continue with this. Next, as you can see, it's then showing me here. So next, I'm going to drill in a little bit deeper and start asking Claude to look for the materials specific within my SAP environment. In this example here, it's going to come in. It's going to find the materials in a particular plant and then display those. Now, if I continue with this, I'm then going to ask to pull the gross and the net weight of these materials. It's going to go in and it's going to display those values, showing me the both. And then what's nice with this is you'll notice even it's going to start doing its own analysis, and it's going to come back and let me know that 3 of these records have values that far exceed the gross weights relative to the net weight. And it's then asking me, do I want to do an update for those different values? So for this video, I then went in and I just said to update the gross weight on one specific material. and then it will come back. And it's similar to what we've seen in previous demos. The other nice feature with this is that it's not only giving me the old value, but it's then giving me the new value, so I can do a side-by-side comparison between these. So you can see that I made the changes within my SAP environment. With, again, I haven't gone to the SAP GUI or done anything. Now at this point, I'm just going to hit please reset. So it's again going to do another maintenance update to that particular record to bring that back. And it is then showing the adjustment. Okay. So with that, what we saw in here is, quickly highlight some of what we were just seeing. In a traditional SAP environment, again, you might spot issues in a particular T code, but then you have to jump to a separate T code to make the changes. And then you have to re-enter the material, select the new views, and then manually update the data. It's fragmented, again, it can be very time consuming. Here, it's very conversational and the flow just continues. So we go from discovery to fixing to verifying, all within one seamless flow without losing focus. Now, with that, and I'll just leave it on here, we just saw that there was a shift from navigating SAP transactions to simply expressing the intent. And instead of jumping from between different T codes, the user is working through very simple, single-guided interaction. Behind the scenes, Claude, the MCP server, and Studio are working together. So while the experience may seem simple, it's still controlled and reliable. The result is even faster updates, less efforts for the users, and a more consistent data. Are you ready to learn more? Let's continue the conversation. Here's the contact information that we have to be able to set up a quick 30-minute personalized demonstration. We also then have information to this hyperlink that you can download white papers and case studies around not only the MCP server, but also other applications around our various Automate products. And with that, I'll open it up for questions. Jenna, I'm not sure. Oh. I don't see any questions. Oh. Okay. Jenna, can you hear me?
Hey there, Scott. Yeah, thank you for a great demo.
Yeah.
We'll see if any more questions filter in here. But if not, I will take you backstage. Thank you, Scott.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today, and great demos from our presenters at Supermetrics and Precisely. If you missed any of the webinar or want to rewatch anything, the recording will be available a few minutes after the webinar if you refresh this page. Thank you again to Supermetrics and Precisely for partnering with us today. We'll see you all next time.